Well, joining me is the Deputy Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Winston Peters. Winston, really appreciate your time. Let's get straight into it. You've introduced a bill yesterday. It's apparently politicians need help defining what is a man and what is a woman. Has this sort of sprung off the UK case, the Supreme Court decision?
No, it hasn't. Look, you can recall about 3 years ago, there was the case of men going into the bathing or dressing rooms at Invercargill swimming pool.
Yep.
And we were horrified by it, and we came out and said, this is appalling, this should be stopped in its tracks. And we were accused of going down a rabbit hole, or as one politician said, on another planet. This is how dysfunctional many Western politicians have become. And so we started then saying, no, we're going to do something about it, and we campaigned on it. We went all around this country. We've received 2 petitions from women in the last 9 months about this very issue, and we're all set to go on this. And the coincidence of the UK is purely a coincidence. Go and look at our manifesto. It's in our coalition agreement as well. And so we've set out to do it, and we're sick and tired of this elitist in the mainstream media leading the charge on behalf of a massive campaign by a minuscule number of people, a serious minority. And we're going to take them on. We're going to fix it.
Great. Now, I noticed that Radio New Zealand was sort of saying that it what did they say? Kind of a revolving door, they said. And that was because I think you had an earlier bill which basically said dudes need to stay out of girls' toilets. That was leading into the election campaign. You've dropped that one. This is a wider reaching bill, isn't it? It covers the whole spectrum.
No, we haven't dropped it. We've only got 4 backbenchers. We're only allowed 4 bills at one time. A backbencher can only have 1 bill. And so we've had to withdraw some to give some priority, but they're not being dropped. They're not being withdrawn. We hope to get them all in there, but that's the problem we've got, where common sense has to queue up these days. That's what is happening in Parliament.
Now, I know we can't be privy to discussions in Cabinet, but do you think that the other 2 political parties as part of the coalition will just say, okay, let's take it out of the biscuit tin, let's make it a government bill, let's get rid of this ridiculous gender ideology and get back to normality? Can that happen?
I'm caught by the Cabinet process, but you're talking about it theoretically. In any situation like this, if it wasn't New Zealand, the coalition overseas, it'd be over to the other parties to make up their mind, so to speak. That's all I'm saying. You know where we sit. I make no bones about it. No. In fact, I'm sick and tired of actually tiptoeing around the tulip, so to speak, on these critical issues where other societies, particularly in Asia and dare I say in Middle East, on these issues, look at us and think, are these guys totally mad? They can't understand. I was in Vanuatu last week, and this journalist asked the Prime Minister about this very issue, and he said, well, we've legislated for man to be judged as a man and woman to be judged as a woman because that's the way we think. Just like that. And I'm sort of, there they are, this small country in the Pacific, got it clear as daylight. Because guess what? They actually believe in Christianity, they believe in God. And they're not humble about it. They're not scared about it. They just are there, having sort of been come to by hundreds of years ago by other civilizations, and I would say in many ways adopted the best while keeping their own. But I'm sitting here, listening to this Prime Minister being interviewed, but he's meant to be, they were meant to be interviewing me and him, but this New Zealand journalist decided to have a go at him on what have they done about this legislation. And just like that, he went bang. And I'm thinking, isn't this amazing? That's what we've got in mind when we get back home.
So, I mean, I guess the question I'm asking is, do you think you can get the ACT Party and the National Party across the line so that it's just, this bill doesn't just languish in the biscuit tin as a private member's bill?
Well, whether they want to come across the line or not, it's over to them. But our point is, we're going to go out there and take it to the New Zealand people. We think a mass majority of New Zealanders are shocked that we have to legislate for common sense. They're shocked also, and we've said, for example, we want to legislate for English to be an official language in New Zealand. Everything they assumed, like this issue that we're talking about now, or the English language, has been so contested by a bunch of woke leftists, pinko politicians, and people in the mainstream media. And they don't realise in ordinary New Zealand just how bad this has got. Our job is to alert them and call them into the battle on the side of what is right here. It's not complicated.
Okay. Well, I want to look after your health and I don't want to raise your blood pressure, but I am interested. You talked about woke leftists. I just want to show you Chloe Swarbrick's response to your bill. She posted this yesterday. I'm keen to get your response to her.
So the health system is falling apart. And over the weekend, we saw climate change charged weather events flood homes and cut off thousands from power. Meanwhile, the cost of living is arguably getting worse as the government knowingly takes decisions to supercharge inequality. Yet this is the focus of our Deputy Prime Minister, to knowingly and intentionally distract you. Trans people are not the reason that the cost of living is getting worse. They're not the reason that you cannot afford your rent. In fact, you have far more in common with your fellow New Zealander than you do with politicians seeking to divide you. Everybody simply wants a warm, dry, safe home, an affordable and accessible healthcare system, access to education and employment, and a place to build community. Those are the things that unify us. Do not get sucked in by this imported culture war designed to inflame and to divide us.
Yes, now that's coming from the party that wants puberty blockers on demand.
Those four things she mentioned about what people want. New Zealand First and me, Winston Peters, has made those four things famous. I've said that for 47 years. And here she is sitting down grabbing even those lines as she's attacking me. You know what I say to her? Okay, groomer.
I just wanted to see if your blood pressure would rise watching that, but I noticed you were laughing and enjoying it.
You defended Doyle. You've got a massive number of women who are lesbians who are utterly outraged the way they've been misused by this woman and the Green Party. And I mean, we're heading past 179,000 going for it now on these sorts of matters. And here she is there. And I said, my answer is, okay, groomer.
Do you regret raising questions about Benjamin Doyle? Do you think you were unfair?
I'm not going to stop raising questions about Benjamin Doyle. He has no place in Parliament. In any other proper democracy, he had been gone. And he will be going. He will not be surviving this experience of thinking he can come along and like a flatfish say anything he likes about what he was doing, when they all know that 52 posts were pulled down for a reason.
Now, I also noted that Radio New Zealand got very upset yesterday and tried to make out that you'd dropped another bill around getting rid of DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion. Which of course you haven't got rid of. It's just changed who the backbencher MP promoting it is. But where is that at? Because I mean, I've done some profiles of, like, for example, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and also MB, Ministry of Business and Innovation and Employment. They're still, and Kiwi Bank, who I noticed that you had to go at as well. They're still ramming down the wokeness.
Yeah, well, I think we can get away with it. We're not going to leave off, that's the truth of the matter. I think actually the Kiwi Bank did it in response to us. They went and did it deliberately in response to us, but they've been pretty shocked now about the level of attack that's come back from supporting my post against them. And that's why they've actually blocked my post on their own publicity. You know that? Yeah. That's the Kiwi Bank, owned by the New Zealand people. And I thought to myself, you're going to answer to your masters very shortly. We have people in Parliament who've got hopes to build the Kiwi Bank to what they should be. We're wasting our time while they think like that. Get back and start looking after your customers. Get back and do your banking and stop sending signals to the rest of the country on a matter in which you've got no authority, no mandate whatsoever, no approval, and carrying on as though that politicians don't really matter. Well, we do matter in this context. We are the people's representatives, and meant to be the people's voice, and you're going to go on hearing from us. But it's just extraordinary when you say that there. And on the thing on DEI, we're going to keep on pressing on that. But it's like this. You've actually got to go to some of those government departments and go through them very, very carefully. And I came to understand while I was doing this job as a politician, there was a time, even in the height of Chairman Mao in Russia and China, that out in some far-flung parts of China, communism had barely connected with them, just hadn't got there. In the big cities, yes, it was, even though it was a rural revolution. But in some parts, it was barely sort of touching in the way that people thought. I'm not using that as any other example, but sometimes it takes time to get through to civil servants that the government has changed, that they should have read the government's policy, they should have read the manifestos. But they have this certain view. You know the old story about River Thames? I liken it to parliamentarians or bureaucracy in New Zealand. They said about the River Thames was a poem, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. There's bureaucracies in New Zealand like that. For politicians may come and politicians may go, but we go on forever. And the answer is, yes, okay, sunshine, but for the next 3 years, you'll be doing it this way.
Do you think there's a bit of a turning in the media to this, though? I mean, I have been telling people about Fran O'Sullivan's column in the weekend in the New Zealand Herald, where she actually said that the decision in the UK Supreme Court was a victory for common sense. And she actually referred to Posey Parker as a pro-woman activist, which would be the first time in the mainstream media where Posey Parker was called a pro-woman activist, which of course she was, but she was always
look at the gap.
Anti-trans.
Look at the gap between that massive breach of the right of free speech and free assembly in this country that hit Posey Parker until the first time a mainstream media said one thing in support. It's years apart. It's just so wrong. Posey Parker, whether you agree or not, had a right to come along here and not have, amongst other things, the co-leader of the Green Party out there doing her best to break the law, as she did. And then she complained about being assaulted, which she wasn't. Isn't it amazing? And there's the mainstream media carrying this stuff. And then she said all cis white men are responsible for violence. This is breathtaking. I'm from the Maori world. I lived in a Maori village. And I know that's a lie for a start. And in the old days, in our village, peer pressure stopped that sort of violence because uncles and brothers would not let it happen. They'd do something about the male who broke the law. Today, not happening. In the so-called Maori world, we're condoning it, and it's got to stop.
Okay, so you've got a couple of bills in the ballot. You've got one to try and persuade politicians that a woman is an adult human female and male is an adult human male. You've also got a bill to stop banks being woke. You've got a bill to stop DEI, wokeness being forced down in government departments. But at the end of the day, you're one party fighting the war on woke. The question that many people are asking, especially social conservatives, are where is ACT and the National Party in all of this? Why is New Zealand First the only one taking on this battle?
Well, we got, in the last election, very foully treated by the mainstream media. We started out in 2021. We made up our mind in April 2021 we're going to come back. And we started having public meetings which were being packed wall to wall, like no other political party is able to do it at the modern times. Packed meetings are a sign of public interest and public support, so to speak. But the media did not give us any coverage at all. So we come into the election, and then the National Party leader Luxon says he doesn't know us. He wants to deal with the ACT Party. See what happened? 5 or 6 more members, and I would have all the things you and I are talking about into the coalition agreement. And I've told people who backed us, what happened here, you've got to understand, it was a full-on media attack to ensure we couldn't make it. Right up to the end, where this woman on Morning Report said to me in an interview, the only interview we had in 2023 virtually was about our candidates, where do you get these people, she said. And I said to her, beg your pardon, did you just say where do you get these people? Who on earth do you arrogantly think you are? My people are the most qualified, the most talented, they're all set to go. And they think I'm going to forget that? Or the other person said, I hate to say this, but they look like they're on the rise. That's how he began the comment with that. Now, those are 2 inexcusable comments from Radio New Zealand's frontliners that are on there this morning. We had a row again this morning on the very matter when he decided he's going to line me up with Keir Starmer's position. It's got nothing to do with New Zealand at all. Keir Starmer's former position, supporting, but a bit like Hipkins, didn't know where he was, but today he does, up after the Supreme Court of the UK said something. And they got this on before my program. So I asked him, what on earth is this doing on before my interview? And it went downhill from there. But there you go.
Yes, it's interesting that Sir Keir Starmer has finally seen the light. It's amazing what a Supreme Court decision does.
Yeah, but what is it got to do with the interview with the acting Prime Minister of New Zealand this morning? And just to make sure I never got bounced, he's got Hipkins on after me.
Well, speaking of Hipkins, if you
sausage roll-eating turkey would never get any job anywhere else, but he happened to accidentally be given the job by Jacinda Ardern, who herself would never got the job unless I gave a woman I gave a woman a chance once and she let me down. That's what happened here. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying to him to myself, nobody would have heard of you. It wasn't for people giving you a break, and you're so ungrateful and so arrogant.
So I don't think we can hope for much out of Te Pāti Māori, obviously not out of the Greens with Chloe. Chris Hipkins is still figuring out what is a woman. But for many people watching this, Winston, some of them would have voted for the National and ACT Party. What do you say to them as to how they can encourage those parties to get over the line and join you in this war and get some common sense and biology back into the country?
Well, Thomas, Bob, I'm sitting here and you're asking a very common sense question. And I find it breathtaking that I'm being asked to say that 1 and 1 makes 2. That this is just plain common sense. That for centuries we've known that. For millennium we've known that. But this new society has just changed things without any mandate. It's actually breathtaking that we've got to actually address how bad it is to get another group of politicians to see daylight, so to speak, and see what common sense looks like. But I'm very confident because, enough New Zealanders are actually staggered out. Most of the posts I've got are saying, I can't believe we have to do this, but we have to.
Yeah. Look, just one final question, just about the relationship, sexuality and education. Firstly, can I just acknowledge that it was actually because of New Zealand First that RSC was taken out as it currently stands. I know that the current Minister of Education is sort of claiming that it was because of her, but I know that it was in the coalition agreement. So they've reviewed it. We've looked at some of the material that's in it. Some of it's a little bit concerning. There are some red flags, but it has removed a lot of the radical stuff. But I think the main concern, Mr. Peters, is just in terms of outside groups coming in. For example, Inside Out, Family Planning, which are now called Wellbeing Aotearoa, the Grubby Burnett Foundation, the old AIDS Foundation. It's those outside groups coming in, and they still seem to be getting funded by the government. Do you have any understanding of just how much say they will have in terms of the new curriculum?
Look, I put my cards on the table. We set out to change this and get rid of it. And I've been watching at the changes through the legislation, the changes that the ministers announced. And I'm paying a huge attention to what people's concerns are. They welcome the change, but they say it doesn't go far enough. And we're going to watch and put a ruler over this ourselves as a political party to ensure that such decisions are made by the parent. No buts, no maybes.
And I think that's the thing that we will be watching as well, just how much parents involved in the consultation process and in determining the curriculum as well. Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, I know you're very busy, so I won't take up any more of your time, but we do.
Well, there's a famous Latin saying, in loco parentis. You know what it means? In the shoes of the parents. Yeah. That's what the school is doing during the day. That's what high school is doing during the day, standing there in the shoes of the parents. But they decided, forget that principle, I'll just do what I like. That's why it's important to say to parents, what it is you want to have, you are entitled to, as a parent, looking after that child all the time until it leaves your care. You've got a say. We're not going to remove your rights. Okay,
Winston, sorry. Winston, thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.